Over the last 25 years, there's been so many different versions of experiences that you've had within sales comp. And so what got you here?
Change. I crave change. And change is one where you can either move forward, move backwards, or freeze.
In the last 25 years, what have you seen that's changed in sales comp?
Yeah, that number 25 sounds like I'm really old. That's 2.5 decades.
What's been your experience with AI and sales comp? Where do you see the real lift happening?
AI is gonna transform sales compensation in all those areas. It's gonna transform them from design to reporting to systems to operations to enablement to comp increase all the way through. So comp has really moved from the back office to the front office.
What's been your biggest mistake?
Bringing everyone along, like, why did we make this change? Not really understanding that last mile.
Most of the best sales comp and RevOps operators don't write blog posts. They don't have courses. They're too busy building, but they will talk. If you ask the right questions and give them the space to go deep. That's what the Uncappd podcast is. In-person, high-quality conversations with people who build compensation systems, revenue operations, and GTM strategies at companies you know. Our first guest is John Lee, a senior director of sales compensation at LinkedIn. 25 years in the game. He's run one of the largest sales comp organizations in the country, nearly 5,000 reps, 60 plus compensation professionals. And do the math on scale. You're looking at hundreds of millions of dollars in annual commissions flowing through systems. This is the kind of operator who's seen every comp plan break and knows exactly how to design them so they don't. No fluff, just real operator insight. Hey John, welcome to the Uncappd podcast. Super excited to have you on this podcast.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I'm super excited. This is actually my first podcast. I've done various other things, but this is actually my first podcast.
Yeah, that's great. Glad we could be the host here for that first one. Perfect. Let's start off with your background, John.
Sure.
Obviously, you've accomplished a lot in the last 25 years, but where did it all start? And maybe if you could start there, that'll be great for the audience.
Yeah, that number 25, that's a big number. Like, that's a number I have to go reflect on a little bit here. Like, I got to go back to the beginning of time. It sounds like I'm really old. That's 2.5 decades. My start at sales comp started on the bottom. Actually, before that, I actually went into retirement consulting for a few years after I graduated college. And that was actually something rewarding for me because I've actually put a lot of the things that I've learned in retirement consulting to my own personal retirement strategy as well. But 3 years in, I was like, I got to go do something else. Like, I'm still fresh out of college. I can't just stay in this industry forever. So I started to explore. And with everybody, it came accidentally. Like, there was an opportunity at a security company called Network Associates. You may know them better as McAfee today. They did security software. They did IT software as well. And that's where I learned everything about commissions as an analyst from the ground up. And they were implementing a product, the first on-cloud product called Centtiv. And that was where my work came in. It's like I had to go calculate on spreadsheets. I think at the time it was like Excel 97. I know it's hard to even think about anything with a 9 since we're in the 2000s. But we were just crunching numbers, calculating commissions, and getting that out to the reps. Reps had no visibility to any of that because it was all done back office. And that is one where reps were always inquiring, like, are you sure you calculated it right? Here's my number. So there was a lot of shadow accounting going on. And that's why they wanted to implement one of the first on-cloud solutions out there, Centtiv, because that would give them access and transparency and visibility into commission statements. And they could go dig into the details and such like that. So that's where I got into and hooked into sales compensation because I love talking to sales reps. I love talking to leaders. And that's where I learned to learn a lot. Back in the days, someone once told me the best learning is by playing. And I didn't really know what that meant at the time until someone else said, stay hungry and fail fast. And that is a concept that I have embedded into my 25 years of career of just being in sales compensation, or just even in my personal life as well with raising 2 young kids, which they are adults now. But just that concept of staying hungry, failing fast, right? Learning through play. And what that really means is be curious, be intentional, set some goals, do some trial and error, fail fast, right? Iterate. And the outcome you're going to come out is going to be the better version than you had in V1, right? And that's hold true just throughout my career is that concept of staying hungry and failing fast.
That's fantastic. Awesome. And so, obviously, over the last 25 years, there's been so many different versions of experiences that you've had within sales comp to now, leading sales compensation at LinkedIn. So, if you could talk about that career arc and journey and what got you here, that'll be also great.
Yeah. You know what kept me in sales compensation this entire time in 25 years and then eventually being in leadership positions is change. Mm-hmm. Like I crave change. And change is one where you can either move forward, move backwards, or freeze. And I'm one that likes to move forward with the change. It doesn't mean everything's rosy. There's a lot of challenges you have to go through. Resilience you have to build up. You got to be able to adapt. You got to be able to adopt through that entire process. But you develop so much competency. Like competency around like how you communicate with stakeholders, how you communicate with leaders, how you communicate with children, how you communicate with sales reps. I'm not saying sales reps are children. I'm just talking about my children. But that's where that has continued on for me is the fact that I can continue to learn from great people just at every company I've been at because they all love change. They love change because they wanted to make a difference, right? They wanted to grow the company. They wanted to grow the culture in that fashion, right? And what kept me at LinkedIn for so many years, almost 11, is the culture. Like, the people around me, they all had a purpose. We all had the same purpose, right? And it's really just to empower every individual out there to be really good, right? So
that's fascinating.
Yeah.
And so for you, obviously what you've achieved is fantastic. For folks who aspire to be, in leadership positions in sales comp, what would you advise? What does it take to be here?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And, because I started as an analyst, just at the very bottom and then kind of grew my career. And my career, talking about the career arc, it wasn't always like analyst 1, analyst 2. I did take a pivot. I was in management, and then I went to become a senior program manager in one of my roles. And then I went back. And that gave me depth. That gave me an area where it's like, there are some things I need to hone in, some of the competencies, some of the stakeholder management areas. And just building that depth has really helped me move forward. And one of the things that has helped me move forward is just being purpose-driven. Like, have intention, and along the way, you're going to learn you got to be courageous. Right? There are going to be things that you may disagree, but you have conviction, you got integrity, and you're going to have to show up with your courage around that. And throughout that, like, you got to be clear. You need clarity around just how you want to show up, right, with that purpose. And I've always got feedback that I'm very authentic. Right? Sometimes I always say, I have some unfiltered answers. And that's a way for them to relax in a way where I am going to go tell them what I really do think, because we have the same intention, we have the same purpose, we got the same goals in mind. How we get there might look a little bit different, right? And I think people have learned to appreciate the authenticity that I could bring in a conversation.
That's awesome. So maybe, in your experience in the last 25 years, what have you seen that's changed in sales comp, and what are kind of the fundamentals that's really not changed?
Yeah, no, that's 25 years, a lot has changed. I can't just go back and say nothing has changed. Obviously, the technology has changed, right? It's been so innovative. We were back in 25 years ago, we were on premise. People don't really know what that concept means. Everything's cloud-based, right? Everything's SaaS related. We've been able to look at data in a way where we can now integrate data. We could go big data We could start to analyze data in a much quicker way. And then commission statements, like we got mobile now. People can actually see their commission statements on mobile. They could do a comp inquiry on the mobile, ask the questions. And now we're in this age of AI, chatbots. Like how amazing would that be once we start to get there? We're almost there. But it's going to be an amazing journey. And I think innovation and technology has been one. The second is, as I mentioned, I was doing analytical work. I was doing back office, accounting, calculation, get it out to payroll, telling the reps, trust me, I calculated your commissions correctly. Here's a nice little spreadsheet I'm going to go give you, right? And then that's where people start to compare. We're now in the front office. Comp is now a strategic lever in every conversation. When there's a new product coming out, they bring in comp. When there's a new commercial model or a change in the commercial model, comp becomes a conversation, right? So comp has really moved from the back office to the front office in a way where it's pretty exciting because we can make influence, we could impact decisions. And someone asked me one time, like, what is your single big metric that you live by for your organization? I go, the growth number. Like, did we grow the company? Because we are at the center of sales reps' behavior. If the behavior isn't there and aligned with a go-to-market strategy, you're not going to hit the growth number. Like, you're not going to just get there, accidentally. There's a behavior change that you're trying to create with your compensation design and your plans and your policies. In a way, it's going to lift the company. And they go, wow, I never thought about it that way. I would have thought you would have thought about like payroll accuracy or like the operational excellence or system uptime or, from a sales rep perspective, just being able to have commission statements available and running analytics, right? Those kind of things. I was like, no, like we are part of the growth of a company. If a company is growing 10%, if a company is growing 30%, we have a mark in that. We have our fingerprint around that because you are affecting their sales organization. So
absolutely.
yeah.
I think most companies and sometimes even professionals underestimate the impact that sales compensation as a practice has on the direction of the company. And so maybe getting into a little more specifics there, how do you think about aligning plan design with the broader revenue goals and the GDM strategy? And how do you balance like multiple different levers that you have?
Sure.
Or in the sense, even tensions, right? Like where you have one, you want to make it simple for the reps. But then two, you also want to clearly align pay to performance.
Yeah.
And there's obviously the financial angle, the cost of sales angle. So how do you balance all of these three?
Yeah, I think it just goes back to your other question that I may not have answered is what hasn't changed? What hasn't changed is sales comp is one of the highest expense at a company, to your point, like how am I balancing cost? Second is the behavior has always been how to motivate sellers, how to motivate salespeople to go sell, how to reward them, right? So that comes with the design. And there is a balance you got to go put in because it is one of the largest expenses and you want a sales organization motivated and you need to reward them. You also need to recognize them through like President's Club programs and such. And the way I look at design is you got to create a vision. You need a strategy. You need some first principles. So one of your first principles is keep it simple. If you can't explain it to a rep in a minute or less, it's already too complex. If you can't explain it to a rep in a minute or less, you probably can't even build that, right? You can't build it in a system. You can't build it in a process without friction. There's going to be a lot of friction. You're like, that's very complex, right? So I think it's really have a set of frameworks, have a set of design principles, being simple is one, and making sure everyone understands those. Like every start of a design process, everyone needs to anchor back to our set of principles that we have all aligned on. We can modify and slightly change, but we all need to come to an agreement around that, right? So the way to kind of think about it is like, where are we going to go drive? Are we doing this from a cost perspective, or are we doing this from a growth perspective? That is like the first question you should be asking your leaders, your CFO or your RevOps leader, right? You might get some differing answers because one's a CFO and one's a RevOps leader. But it's one where where's the trade-off? Where are the trade-offs you're looking? Where are the trade-offs you're not gonna really just be one you're not going to be able to trade off, right? Like the non-negotiables is what I would say is like, what are those? And then you have a set of principles for you to go balance for the next fiscal year around that. So
no, that's fascinating because what you're really saying is let's start at the company strategy level and understand what's the priorities. And obviously, priorities could evolve with the life cycle of the company, the broader market direction, and then based on that priority, design plans. One that are simple, that's a given.
Yeah.
But then do you prioritize more on the revenue growth side, or potentially more on the cost side from a standpoint?
Yeah, the priorities are going to shift, right? It's going to shift during the year as well, not only just the beginning of the year, but they will shift. And that's where sales comp practitioners need to be agile. You need to be agile because once you design something for the year, you can't just pull back. Like you got to constantly evaluate. There are some trade-offs you may have had, and there may be new models that, more headwinds or tailwinds you need to go adjust to. And that's where like SPIF programs or other type of design modifications you have to go explore during that whole time. So our design cycle is literally 10 months of the year.
Got it.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. There's never a break. Right. Like that 2 months is about like execution and enablement, but design is, it runs 10 months of the year.
So maybe double clicking on that, right? Like, and certainly we're living in times where, things are evolving very quickly in the market and in the broader business direction standpoint. So you said even during the year, things could evolve, priorities could evolve. Obviously, a SPIF program, for example, could really work from a revenue growth standpoint. But if things were to change on the cost side, what have you, in your experience, done to kind of solve for it?
Yeah, when you roll out a SPIF, it's the same. What's the priority? What's the goal? Do we have a size in cost that we're adjusting to, right? Are there trade-offs that we're going to be able to make around that? And what are some of the non-negotiables? Once you have that, you build a SPIF program. So you could have a SPIF program where you go like top 10%, no budget, right? I mean, unlimited budget. I mean, there's always going to be a budget limitation because of top 10. Or you could put a bucket, right? You could ring fence the whole thing and it's a race. Like the first ones, right, until there's no more budget left, will be rewarded through the SPIF program. And SPIF programs need to be short in time, right? You hear people saying, hey, can't be a year long. That's not a SPIF program. That's a design. It's got to be a quarter or less. And that's where the impact is really made because I look at SPIF as pilots, right? A control group. You're doing one versus the other. You're going to learn quite a bit, the whole fail fast. You're going to learn from that. Then you can roll out another SPIF.
Right.
Or another one. Or you could say it's satisfied the goal, right? And now we are back on track. So you're trying to solve for something. Are you trying to solve for a gap in your bookings, or are you trying to accelerate a new product launch? Right. So there's always purpose with SPIFs. They do work if it's done with intention and with some structure around it. But a lot of it is about transparency. How are people, doing against it? If it's, again, back office, you launch it, everything's done behind the scenes, and you go, ta-da moment, people will be like, I didn't even know there was a SPIF, but thank you. Right? So
that's great. From a standpoint on SPIF and learnings from SPIF, as you said, there's a lot of things that what you could push in terms of levers within the sales performance. Maybe in terms of messaging, is there a reason for you to keep it slightly unpredictable of when the SPIF is coming? Because sometimes what we see is companies also, reps understand intuitively that, the last quarter I'm potentially going to get a SPIF. So, I might hold back for it or whatever. So is there something that you've learned on the timing and the predictability?
Yeah, no, that's a great question because even when we're rolling out the following year's plan design, we actually roll it out before the end of the year. We don't roll it out to the sales reps per se, but we roll it out to the manager plus community because we want engagement. We want them to understand it. And if they don't understand it, then from day one, you're already behind because now you're trying to catch up to managers, the directors, and then the sales reps. And then you're 6 weeks into the quarter, and now they understand what you're trying to change in their behavior. So we've actually taken a different approach over the last couple of years around that. Same thing with the spiffs. We'll announce it before. And we find like, will there be some individuals that will be like, I think I'm going to hold off on this and close it this and not close it this quarter and close it next quarter during the spiff period. But those are very rare, right? We live with high integrity and
so don't solve for exceptions.
You're not going to solve for these corner cases because what you want to do is you want to attract attention. You can't have an event and not announce the event, until the day of the event. People won't know about it. You're not going to have people show up. They're going to be like, what's this event about? Right? So there's a lot of promotion that happens with spiff, with sales comp design launches for the new fiscal year. You got to promote it because it's a behavior change at the end of the day. I think that's the thing that people are starting to understand is like to change behavior, everybody's in a different arc of change. Some people will get it right away. Some people will start to dig, analyze, try to figure things out, and it will take them a little bit longer because it's at the end of the day, you're trying to change something and you're trying to change every individual out there because you can't herd them and go, here's the change and let's go for it. You got to do it 7 different ways, especially when you're communicating change.
That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
So John, maybe getting into your organization, right? Like you're one of those sales comp leaders that has a massive team of sales comp professionals. So and you manage the team globally. So what decisions have you taken in terms of the org design for your team, and also just cadences that you've really operated on to drive the team towards the results that you want them to?
Yeah, that question comes up often, right? When I first started at LinkedIn, it was a smaller team. We had about 15 or 16, and then over the years we've grown it to the size it's at now today. And it was done with intention, and it was done by understanding what the needs are of the business. So there are needs of the business where, like enablement or rolling out a plan, people just took that for granted. And I was like, no, we need a strategy. We need like purpose. We need a design around like what is our plan to go actually build, training materials, how we're going to go communicate, how we're going to evaluate like the communication. And that needs to be a team. You're not going to have just an analyst roll it out, right? So you need that with intention. So that is one area where we built. Systems is another area where we just continue to build that out because there's more technology out there and we're not all skilled. So you build it based on competency. You build it based on hard skill. And you need your leaders to buy into the broader vision. Like here's what sales comp could look like. If we want to be at the table, and we want to be at the table at many other groups, from engineering or to products or go-to-market operations or to sales or to legal, you need to build with purpose, right? You're not going to build it overnight because you have headcount planning you got to go through, and you got to allocate those headcounts also based on intention. Like where am I going to get the biggest mark this year? Where am I going to get the biggest mark the second year? And then over time, it just continues to grow.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So maybe let's also talk about sales comp as a function and where it sits, right? Today, obviously, this is one of those functions that is in between sales and finance and operations and HR. How do you, align all of these functions together to the goal? And how do you resolve conflicts at the end of the day?
Yeah. I think that's one where you take a pulse of the market, and it is sitting in various functions today. And majority of the function isn't within go-to-market or within finance, small portion within HR. And it gets down to where does the strategy start? Everything starts with the planning, the strategy, right? And where is your leader? Is your leader sitting in finance, go-to-market, or HR? Are they plugged in to the go-to-market strategy? The closer they are plugged in is typically where that function is going to sit, because they're going to have just understanding of the strategy so you could design a plan, and then you have to now execute that plan, right? So fundamentally, they're going to also know the operation side of it. They're going to make it happen, right? You know, if you're too aspirational and everyone's talking in a closed room and there's no collaboration going on, you're going to fail, because aspiration needs to balance and make sure you could think about the desperation of that operations team that's going to really have to administer those plans, right? Or even the systems team that needs to go build it, or even the reporting team to understand, like, what data do you want? What metrics are you looking for? What signals are you also looking for, right? They're not going to know. So, you know, at the end of it, it's a very collaborative approach to design. You still need one individual or one function that will make a recommendation, but there's a lot of inputs into that. And you're going to get different insight from HR. You're going to get different insights from the various bodies within go-to-market. You're going to get insight and perspectives from the finance teams as well, right? You got to bring all that together, get all your information in line, and then you can build a plan. Like, sometimes you're building from scratch, or sometimes you're modifying a plan. And all of that is really based on what behavior change do we want to make? What's the mark?
Got it. So now going back to your organization,
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about the structure that you've found, the balance where, you're able to orchestrate all of these different things, and like the number of folks that kind of manage in each of those?
Yeah.
sub-functions?
The biggest function, or the number of people that are in the biggest sub-function within global sales compensation is going to be in my operations group, right? Because that is a ratio based on the number of sales reps. They got to not only administer the plans, but they also have to be, they're the front end for the sales reps to go communicate to, right? We could build a ticketing system with tier 1 tickets done via vendor or whatnot, but at the end of the day, the questions are going to be, did I get paid right? We could use chatbot, we could use other areas to do more of the tier 1 type of ticket answers, like, hey, when am I going to get paid? I don't need an analyst to answer that. I could have someone else answer that. So that's the biggest function, my operations group. Then I have a systems and technology group. They're the ones that manage the entire system from end to end. And sometimes we buy third-party products. Sometimes we have to build a custom product on top of that third party. And they have to go make sure our engineering team and our products team can build that to spec. And that's the systems technology side. Then I have program teams of designers, program team of policymakers, enablement, and then governance and compliance. Right. So you need the full spectrum. They need to understand the next individual next to them, their peers, where they're coming from. What are they trying to solve for? And that harmony of understanding that creates a very beautiful just end-to-end process from strategy to execution. Right. So I always ask my team, do you know what they're trying to solve for? Don't try to solve for yourself. Try to solve for the individual next to you, solve for the individual above you, solve for the individual next to them, right? Because if you don't have that understanding, you're not going to be successful, and you're going to create more friction into this entire process around it. So that's how I have my organization set up, is like designers, policy, governance, compliance, enablement, systems technology, and operations. A cool thing within the operations is I have business solution analysts in there, so like BSAs, and they are the bridge from systems to operations. And that bridge needs to be very tight, because sometimes the internal friction is like, I built it to your spec, and they go, that's not what I meant, right? So then there's this friction happening that didn't have to happen if you had someone in the middle to understand just enough on the systems to bridge against the people from the administration side of it. So
that's perfect. Maybe let's get deeper into one of the sub functions that you mentioned, which I find a lot of sales comp practitioners not as much accustomed with, which is on governance, right? Like so. So how have what does good mean in governance?
Yeah.
Because everything else, there's a little more objectivity, but with governance, what does good mean to you? And like, if you could like talk about your experiences where
Sure.
because of good governance, you've been able to manage a risk downstream. That'd be great.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. When people talk about SOX or audit or governance or compliance, it's just negative, right? So one of my strategy over the past few years is let's reverse that. Let's make it a positive experience. Let's create a delightful experience for all parties. What does that mean? Well, you got to be a little bit more proactive. You need to set some policies that work for your partners, not tops down policy. And you have to build like a continuity plan. You got to build, and the way you build that continuity plan is one where if there's a disaster that happens, let's say the system goes down, or you got bad data loads, or something is failing, you could pull that up. That's your plan B, right? That is where governance is a place where they're going to be very appreciative because they took some time to go develop the plan B, right? And that's where operations team are going to, have this moment of, wow, they are on our team. They're not the ones that are preventing us from our work. Or the design team, they're not the team that's preventing us from growing the business, right? They are here as a partner to help not only just protect the company, but to grow the company as well, right? And they're doing it in a way where we all understand like what we should be looking out for, right? So I think that's where governance can really flip the script from being so negative or have that negative viewpoint to more of a positive partner and creating more and better delightful experiences for all parties.
That makes a ton of sense, yeah. And maybe getting into the other part, which is on systems, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure come across multiple systems and implemented systems. So, what's been your learning in terms of implementing incentive compensation systems and just getting everything correct?
Yeah.
To the requirement that you want it to be.
Yeah, no, that's a loaded question because everybody has their own viewpoint. And, I think one thing people can anchor on is you have to solve for the whole than the sum of its parts, right? And where that really comes from is like, you can't solve for one problem because you're going to have unintended consequences either upstream or downstream. And to solve for the whole, you do need to lean in. You need to lean in not just on your product, but the products where you're receiving or the products you're going to deliver to, and understand that piece, right? The more understanding you have and how that operates, then the more understanding where there is going to be that level of friction or where people are going to resist because they'll be like, hey, we can't quite do it this way. But then you're like, but I want it this way. But if you know what the limitations are, you're going to lean in, they're going to lean in, and you're going to come to a common, solution that works for both versus just like tension and then it moves up to a committee and you have to unblock those cases. So, when there's large transformation projects, which I have done and been part of at a prior company, moving from on cloud moving from on-premise to cloud. And that was like a fundamental shift. Like, it's like, why, right? So you have to know why you want to make this transformation. Be very, very clear with your executives, with your partners, and you have to get executive sponsorship. Large transformation projects never go smooth. Like, you have a plan and it doesn't, like, you don't hit these milestones perfectly. So you're gonna need support from them. They need to buy into it. They need to be able to unblock and meet with other executives around just some of the tension that might be created around that. So, you need to know the why. Like, you need to be very, very clear why you want to do it. Is it to save money? Is it to advance the technology? Is it one where you have some foresight? Like, on-prem is going to die. It's going to be too costly. You got to go to cloud, and here's all the available features. Like, you need to be very clear around that. Get that executive sponsorship. You have to talk to people. got to talk to not just your own small circle, but everybody that it might impact. Because it is going to be a change for them. They'll be like, why are we changing? It worked, but we can't move forward, right, with the technology we have today. So you got to get them bought in as well. You got to learn to iterate, like just stay agile. Like, the whole waterfall of a system transformation, that's a dying breed. You got to be in this agile mode of you're going to constantly learn. You have the same goals, but you're going to constantly learn and iterate with your partners around like, what are some of the shifts? What are some of the non-negotiables? What are some of the things that we're going to just press forward with? And it might be painful or it will be painful, but you're going to go have some perseverance and meet them on the other side as well, right? So you got to go through that motion. And the other thing is system isn't going to solve for bad business process. Mm-hmm. So, when you're thinking about a system transformation, you need business process owners along. You need business process owners to go look at their process, see what processes they may need to go change, adjust, modify, and also identify what are some of the broken processes they have, right? And just be very transparent around that, because sometimes the system could solve for a process, or a process exists because the system can't solve for it. And that's where you got to do that matching and mapping, right? So, don't just lift and shift bad process or any process into the system. Otherwise, you're going to be challenged with the same issues that you have.
Got it. So when we talk about systems, John, in your mind, how do you think about build versus buy? And especially in the day and age of AI, where the cost of build is going down for some of the use cases.
Yeah.
Like, how do you think about this decision?
Yeah. I think it's one where you really have to look into what's your objective, right? And, we do both. The current company I'm at, prior companies I've been at, we do both. We build and buy. And it just gets down to like, why? Why can't we just buy one product? There's not a vendor out there that meets your customized needs, right? So you have to learn and know what they can deliver, and then have a plan in place that you might have to go build to get these other features that are non-negotiable for you.
Right.
So for me, I have a hybrid approach around, you don't always have to buy, you don't always have to build, but you do need to anchor on the fact and recognize that you shouldn't just build because that's, cost prohibitive all the time. Because when you do buy, you're going to get scale, right? Yeah. So you got to balance the two. I don't know what the mix is. I don't think it's 50-50, but I'm probably thinking it's like, 70-30, like 70% buy, 30% build. But I think it just comes down to like, what's your strategy? What are you trying to really solve for?
Got it. And maybe talking about AI, obviously that's the hot topic.
Yeah.
What's been your experience with AI and sales comp, right? Like, where do you see the real lift happening?
Sure.
And, what's been working so far?
Yeah. I'm all in AI. Like, I'm AI crazy right now. We're just in a baseball analogy. Like, we're in the first inning. And the first inning could be quick or it could be very long, like depending how the offense is playing versus how the defense is playing. I think we're in a very long offense. We're scoring a lot of wins. And AI is gonna transform sales compensation in all those areas. It's gonna transform them from design to reporting to systems to operations to enablement to comp increase all the way through. Like we're starting to play around with agents, and we're actually building. My team is building agents in a way where we don't have to go do an IT development or anything like that. They can just start playing with it and get some agency around and creativity around like real business problems for them. So chatbot, like comp inquiries. If you have all your policies and all your FAQs and all your documents in one place, and a rep goes in, they could just chatbot that. Yeah. Right? How cool it would. And the next stage is they're about to close a deal, and it's catered towards them. They know who you are. They know your design. They know your comp plan. They could tell you what your estimate commission is going to be off that bookings, right? Policy. It could look at prevention or detection in a way, or governance, I would say, as well. So that's where AI agents could come in and go, I'm looking at your process. Analyst A has not followed this process. Flag, right? Why did they, fork out of the process? There could be an exception or whatnot. So there's a lot of areas of AI it could help with, exception review. And one of the things we have starting to play around with is called AI paralegal. We built it in-house. Someone on the team on policies actually built that, and it's really cool. And it's really to look at, like, when there's an exception that comes in, what's the first question people ask? Have we set precedents on this? Someone has to recall. Someone has to look at this large, like, Excel, we'll call it Excel, document and start looking and go, hey, some of these look very similar. We have not set any precedents. We've denied these or we've approved these. We're building this AI agent. It'll just look at our entire database. It'll kind of go through and go, hey, there's some that looks familiar, right? There's a confidence score that will be created. And if it's a high confidence, it'll maybe give you a suggestion, right? So then you can accelerate the exception process and that review process in entirety. And you can't, when you go to a rep or a sales manager and you say deny, you have all your historical context that you could provide. So, there's lots of areas, right? It'll help you with, identifying your processes and looking at some gaps that you might have. It'll help you with design. It'll look at your design and go, this may or may not work, right? It's going to give you a score. So there's a lot of areas that we're starting to play on the AI front. I actually, a couple quarters ago, I challenged my team. And I don't know if you've ever seen the show Shark Tank.
Yeah.
Okay, so the concept where you're going to have a team come to the sharks and propose for them to go buy in. So we had a team of up to 4 coming in during an immersion day, and they would pitch their best AI solution case to us. That's awesome. And if we bought into it, then we would go fund it. And we would move forward. We would put resources behind it. We would put some money behind it. And then for them to start exploring, right? And that was a very cool way for them to not be so timid about AI, because I think there's a lot of people that are still resilient. They're anxious about AI. But AI is going to be an enabler for many people. And, they always say the people that understand AI are the ones that are going to be the most attractive talent. People that don't are going to end up, not moving forward in this workplace, in once we get to the second or third inning here. So
absolutely. And maybe, and I think I completely agree with what you said in terms of what you did with your team, because ultimately one of the things that I truly believe is folks who are closest to the problem have also some of the best solutions.
Yeah.
And so creating that platform where they could think about and then apply AI to it and see how they could solve for it, I think can really open out innovative solutions for you and the team.
Yeah, 100%. Just to get that problem statement to an IT organization and having them build, they've never gone through that, right? Problem. So they're going to build based on the spec or the requirements, and then you go, I need a V2 version. I need a V3. It's not quite there. And there's this back and forth in that development process, and the acceptance and adoption from the analyst or the field is going to be much longer. All right. AI, building agents, is going to allow us to iterate much quicker. Like, we could build a agent like within a day, iterate, play around with it, field it out to a focus group, get some input, add to that agent, and then you're just constantly training that agent to scale and for the masses, right? So
absolutely,
yeah.
And yeah, as you said,
it's exciting. We're in an exciting time of AI.
It's super exciting because basically what's really happening is you're having a way that you can shortcut pain to solution. Right?
Yes.
Like, there's intermediaries that are getting removed.
Yeah.
That means that you get better solutions at the end of the day.
Exactly. It's all those like I wish statements.
Yep.
Like now your wishes can come true, right? It's just lean in, understand AI, just play around with it. Like it's, low code, no code, vibe coding, whatever we call it, right? You could do it, right? And then once they get used to one, then they get excited. Like our analysts will start to get very excited and they'll be like, hey, I built another agent. I built this, I built that, right? So it's a pretty
great.
exciting time.
And maybe just extending that thought, what would be your advice for both leaders and sales comp professionals who are either on the fence or nervous about AI? What are the things that you'd advise for them to, obviously, get started off? But,
Yeah.
how would you advise leaders to even think about, this for their organizations?
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of podcasts. There's a lot of newsletters out there. Remove the noise. They will be able to bring some, direction and purpose for you in an AI world that we're moving towards. And some of it is you're just going to learn from your peers, right? Be curious. Ask them what they're doing. Learn together. Like sometimes having a buddy will help. But for leaders, I think it's one where it's like any technology evolution. It's here, right? So you have to lean in. You have to understand, what does this mean? What's the untap out there, right? And be more curious around just the revolution or evolution that's happening with AI today.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So, maybe jumping into your team, you've seen obviously a lot of sales comp professionals. In your mind, what differentiates someone who's going to tap out from in terms of their career growth to someone who you see as a future leader within your organization? So, what are the characteristics or traits that you see help someone succeed and really become a leader in sales comp?
Yeah, I think the first character I look for is, are they problem solvers? Right? Do they really understand the problem? Do they investigate how to solve a problem? Do they bring others, to understand if the problem is a shared problem? So collaboration is one, right? Partnering and understanding their stakeholders and their customers is another area where I just look at that. And someone who, has an area of just pure curiosity. Like, what are other people doing? Like, it may not be related, but I'm curious what they're doing. How do I bring that in place? So someone who, like a mechanic or someone who's really good with cars, they like to tinker a lot. So someone that likes to just tinker and play, and these are the people that get excited. And like on a Monday morning, they want to show you something, right, that they built, or they just played around with, or they learned. So, I think those are the areas like where I look at from an analyst point of view. From a leadership point of view, where I know like, hey, I have a manager, they're going to be the next leader. These are the people that really understand caring for people. Caring in a way where they want to lift them up. They want them to grow along with them, right? They always say, if you make your peers better, if you make your people better, you're going to stand out. You're going to be that leader people want to follow because give them purpose. They have found their purpose, and that is going to be your purpose, right?
That's great, John. So maybe even talking about the middle, right? Like so, there's also this theme that I've seen where a lot of sales comp practitioners get stuck in middle management and are not able to scale to leadership.
Yeah.
Right? Outside of caring for people, is there other things that you see missing where they're not able to establish themselves as a leader in sales comp in that company?
Yeah. I think what gets them stuck is they're afraid. They're not courageous, right? They know the data more than anybody else.
That's true.
Like anybody above them. They need to be able to present those insights into action in a way where they can influence, make an impact, communicate that to upper, levels, because that level of strategic influence is what's going to elevate them. So they need to remove themselves from the day-to-day, so to speak, trust their team, enable their team to also fail fast and constantly, grow from that. So you could elevate yourself up and think more above the clouds. In a way, you're a little bit more strategic. You have all the data. You know all the process. You know exactly what you need to do, what you would like to do. You just need to communicate that. And people are going to buy into that, right? They're going to buy into that vision and go, that is how we're going to go be more effective. That is how we're going to be a lot more efficient. That is how we're going to go scale. And that's how we're going to go grow the company, right? So those are the individuals where they may feel stuck, but they know how to get unstuck. And it's really up to that upper management to help them get unstuck once we identify the individuals that feel a little bit timid and they just need some courage.
Right. And outside of courage, like, is there any specific skill sets that you see that will help them get the seat at the table? I mean, obviously they have a lot of context, as you said.
Yeah.
They know it best in terms of the data. But, is there anything that you see, whether it's in terms of presenting the insight, is it in terms of stakeholder management?
Yes.
Any other skill sets that you see that
Yeah.
really worked?
They need to practice being a great storyteller, right? A storyteller in terms of conveying their message,
Right.
with support of the data in a way people get it. Again, I always say you have 30 seconds to an executive. What are you trying to convey to them? So a perfect example of pay for performance. You go, there's a gap. We are paying more than the quota attainment is delivering. Have a bold statement. Have an action. Where are the areas? And you're going to catch the attention of someone. Right? You're going to catch the attention of me. You're going to catch the attention of a leader that says, that's not what we want. That's not a pay for performance plan. That's a give and give, right? Plan. So,
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah. So just that domain of communication, storytelling, understanding the data, managing your stakeholders, having allies as well, like bring them along the journey, right? You want a lot of the allies to help support your case as well.
Right.
And these are competencies or soft skills that you're going to develop over time, but you need to find the opportunity as well. You can't just sit back and wait,
Absolutely.
Yeah, you need to come knock on a Friday and go, hey, this is what I just found.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Go out and get it.
Yeah.
Is really what you're saying.
Yeah. People that are hungry,
Yeah.
going back, stay hungry, fail fast.
Absolutely. Okay. So maybe looking back at all of your 25 years, John. So what's been your biggest mistake that you wouldn't want to repeat? Whether it's in plan design, whether it's in, operations.
Yeah.
And so essentially what I'm getting to is what would be your advice from that, mistake that you've made in your past?
Yeah. I would, I think there's a lot of mistakes I've made, but I've learned from it. And one is not really understanding that last mile of once you have a design and a plan, you expect everyone else now to take that design and go roll it out. So rolling it out to the sales rep community, rolling it out to operations, rolling it out to systems, rolling it out to reporting, rolling it out to policy. And I think that's something I learned because way back when I was only responsible for design. And that is one where we spent more time, more weekends, bringing everyone along. Like, why did we make this change? Because the resistance is always going to be, why did you make this change? You know it's going to be very hard or impossible to go implement. So I think that's the biggest lesson is bring everyone together, have the conversation early on so they understand what the design of the plan is, what are some of the elements that they need to think about and make change on their side. Because it's not instantaneous. Like you don't have a design and then automatically everything is go live across every sub-function out there.
Yeah. Sometimes I think we get too stuck in the strategy and
Yes.
the planning and then miss out on how you actually
Yeah.
execute it where, most of
Exactly. Yeah. And in design, there's always things I'm always learning is you go into a rabbit hole, right? So it's navigating out of that rabbit hole because you're trying to solve for the big picture, not solve for, that 10% or 5%. There's always going to be a scenario out there. And it's always like, what about? It's like, are we solving for the whatabouts or are we solving for the big picture? Like the guiding principles that we have set, the strategy and the goals that we have set at the beginning, how does that play into that? Oh, it doesn't. Then you can move forward. But, in the past, we would spend like too many hours on that. And it would be, someone, and these are competencies and learnings you go through to navigate out of the complex rabbit hole into, the real conversations.
And I see why that happens, right? Because when you get into those thinking about those exceptions, you also feel smarter that you've, really gone and thought through something could be an exception. But as you said, that might just not be worth the time to think into all of those, exceptional items that could happen. And, really focus on the 90%. As
Exactly. Yeah. If you focus and solve for the 90, the 10% is going to be noise.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense. Okay, so you were talking about execution and basically operationalizing and communication, right? Is there something that you've seen work best in terms of cadence for communication, for training to the field teams, to the reps? What's really worked as best practice for you?
Do it often. Do it often. It takes different people, different ways for them to learn at different times. So you need to know the right people, the right place, and the right time. That's it, right? So you have to constantly, reinforce. So even when you roll out a plan, don't make the assumption everyone understands it, because that assumption is coming off the assumption you had 100% participation, right? So you have to do it in a different way where maybe the learning arc is a little bit different. So you might need bite-sized videos. You might need to do like a manager in a box, train the managers, because maybe that's where the questions might come up between the manager and a rep in a one-on-one. You may want to use communication materials out there that they're used to. So like newsletters that they normally get from their sales leader, incorporate into that, right? You can't just have a special edition comp newsletter, but you need to constantly incorporate it into other newsletters as well.
Right.
Yeah. So the delivery is quite often you have to do.
And different mediums.
Different mediums, and you have to do it often.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Awesome. I could keep discussing about sales comp, but I know we're almost at time. So maybe before we end, we could jump into a lightning round.
Sure. Yeah.
Are you ready?
I mean, I don't know how quick it's going to be, but yeah, I love lightning rounds. Yeah.
Let's start off with metrics, right? So,
metrics. Okay.
What's one metric that you'd, elevate in sales comp?
Elevate, depending which industry you are in, consumption, usage-based, pay as you go, right? That's going to really change the behavior, and it's going to be a positive for the company.
Yeah, and I think that's
and finding a solution for that. Like, I don't think it's a one size fits all.
That's true,
right? It's going to be different, maturity of a company, and that is when you're going to naturally just have to look at every year. Like, where are we in that maturity curve? Because you can't just be a copycat, right? You got to go build something that is really going to take that company from point A to point B to point C.
Got it. Mm-hmm. On the flip side, what's one metric you'd kill?
Anything qualitative. Anything qualitative like an OKR or an MBO.
That's a controversial thought. Like, I'm sure a lot of them.
If it's quantitative, then I'm okay. But if it's a qualitative where it takes a lot of judgment or subjectivity, those are the ones I would naturally kill, right? Because you're not being fair to the plan. You're trying to accommodate an individual, and that just gets back to that 10% you're solving for by putting in some qualitative. And when you're rewarding people or you're recognizing individuals, you go, well, why are they at 100%? I'm only at 80%. One was qualitative, one was quantitative, right? So that's something I would want to get rid of. And we've been pretty successful. And if they want to keep OKRs or MBOs into the plan, make it quantitative.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And I think certainly most of the practitioners who start doing that. So One other question on the lightning round would be, what's like the most underrated enablement artifact?
FAQs. I think that's one where it gets built
Right,
and no one looks back.
right. Yeah.
Then when
Gets
someone
really-
does look back,
Yeah,
usually a rep, they'll rely on that FAQ and that becomes basically legal. And we go, oh, that's outdated. That doesn't quite work. Right. So I think it's one where FAQs is an important artifact to constantly keep up to date,
Right.
especially in the AI world.
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah,
Because
because
AI,
then
yeah,
it can magnify the entire.
it will magnify it and it'll magnify the fact that, because AI needs to stay relevant. AI is going to look at any artifact and it could be something from like 8 years ago,
Right.
right? But it's going to give you an answer.
Yeah.
And then you go, well, I don't believe in that answer because it's from 8 years ago. Something must have changed.
Right.
Or you just take it verbatim, right? So, an example is like I like to play fantasy football. And in the beginning of the season, I used, Claude, I used ChatGPT, I used Copilot. And they gave me answers where they were pulling from rumors of players
Right.
being traded. But they took those rumors as fact.
Right.
And then I was like, I can't rely on this, right? Because they're like, oh, so-and-so is on this team and they have this quarterback. I was like, no, so-and-so is not on that team. So they don't have that quarterback, right? So I don't want to draft that individual, right? So you have to look at AI and the responses AI provides as something like, we're just at the beginning. It's kind of like Wikipedia when that first came out. Like you can't trust it. Professors, teachers said you can't cite from Wikipedia because that's all input from individuals. And it could be truth or it could be lies.
Yeah, and I think going back, it's also around the base, which is the FAQ.
Yeah,
which most
exactly.
folks don't spend as much time. As
Exactly.
they should.
Exactly. Yeah. So my team is very diligent, knowing that like we look at FAQs, twice a year
Got
at a minimum, and make sure it's refreshed every time there's a policy change or process change or something changing on the design. We go and make sure the FAQs are also part of the testing
Got it.
before we roll anything out as part of enablement.
What's one book or mentor that's really shaped your approach?
I'm going to give just a more heartfelt mentor. I would say it's like my wife. Like we've been married 25 plus years. She's been my rock. She's given me so many just really good advice, right? And honest advice, sometimes very direct, very open. And there's sometimes critiques that you do want a mentor to help, identify some areas of opportunities or challenges or growth areas for you. So I would say my wife. But, I think there's a lot of mentors that I've been blessed to be around, like in the workplace or even, personally. And they've all shaped who I am in a way where I always want to, make an impact. I always think about the moments that matter, and those moments that matter for me and for people around me are in a positive light, right? I always say, bring joy to life. And that's something I really do bring in, right? And, the individual that, lately that's very popular is Brene Brown, where she says courage over comfort. So, just going back to our conversation about, some people are a little bit stagnant. Some people have the tools, have, the skills, but they're afraid because they're comfortable where they are. They want something, but they're afraid to go ask or be known, right, in the light. So, she says you could have courage, you could have comfort, but you can't have both. So you got to pick one, right? So,
Perfect.
yeah,
Courage over comfort. So
courage over comfort.
fantastic. On that note, John, we're at the end of the podcast. It was a great experience, for me to, kind of host you and have this conversation. And thanks for sharing all your learnings through the 25 years to our audience. So thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for the invitation. And it's been great just to talk about sales compensation. It's an area like I've been in for 25 years, all in the tech industry. And it's fascinating how it's grown from what it used to be, back office, to front office. And I always, I use a lot of analogies. And one of the great analogies I have thought about, because people have said that's a great analogy, is compensation isn't just about giving a meal to someone. You need to think of compensation as a restaurant, right? Not just a plate that you're going to go deliver a commission paycheck calculation. Think of yourself as a restaurant. You got to operate that restaurant, and you're thriving to be a 3-star Michelin rated restaurant. That means you got to be very intentional. You got to be very purposeful. All the details just throughout this entire process, even at a Michelin-star restaurant, is highly important, right? Because at the end of the day, you want a delightful experience for your customers, your stakeholders, your sellers. And when they have that delightful experience, you're going to make impact, right? And they're going to trust you, and they want to come back. So you have that impression that is set for them, and they want to come back, and they're appreciative of you, right? And I think that's the biggest thing is like, do sales, compensation analysts, or individual practitioners get appreciation? How do we flip that? Think of yourself as a restaurant that strives to be a 3-star. So
That's fantastic analogy. So on that note, thank you so much.
yeah,
And again, great to have you on.
this
the
was
show.
great. Thank you so much.